Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to dive into the realities of maintaining a massive houseplant collection. While the allure of an indoor jungle is pretty undeniable, especially if you watch a lot of videos on YouTube with people with these giant houseplant collections, it's also essential to just address the practical challenges and considerations that come with managing large amount of plants. So I hope you stick around for a pretty candid discussion on downsizing, potential pitfalls you might come across, and tips for maintaining a balanced and sustainable plant collection. I also asked you guys over on Instagram to write in with any questions that you might have about your houseplant collections and how maybe you might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed and how you want to maybe water more sustainably, or just pay attention to the environment and to recognize how practical it is to have this many houseplants, and if it is practical. I think it's a little bit of a controversial topic, and I'm hoping to open up some discussions in the comment section below. So let's get started. First, I thought we could talk about just how popular houseplants have become in general over the past 5 or so years on YouTube and on TikTok and Instagram. I'm seeing the houseplant community grow at an astronomical rate. I think it had a lot to do with the pandemic. That's when a lot of new houseplant enthusiasts kind of hit the big screen. Not really big, but kind of just came into the YouTube scene and started channels and started really accumulating and collecting houseplants and curating a large plant collection. And I have been doing a little bit of research over the past couple of weeks in preparation for this video. Very unlike me, I know. But I have been seeing some very beautiful houseplant collections. And while these collections are absolutely gorgeous, I'm just wondering how sustainable they are to maintain for years at a time. This is my 6th year collecting houseplants and having a collection about this size. I have downsized quite a bit, and I feel like that is a topic of conversation that's being had over on the internet. A lot of people are now talking about being content with your houseplants that you currently have, propagating your houseplants to create new plants instead of overconsumption and overspending. And the furnace in this house sounds like a garbage truck. The fucking washing machine. Something to consider is the time commitment it takes to take care of a large houseplant collection. If you have 50, 100, 200 plants in your collection, you have to consider the amount of time it's going to take you to take care of those plants. I probably have about 75 in my collection right now, and this is the least amount of plants that I've had probably within the past 5 years. I feel like I've downsized since we've moved. I've killed off some plants, not on purpose, some maybe on purpose. I've given some plants away. I have purchased a few plants over the past year, and I've gotten some plants from some friends. But all in all, I think I'm right around 75 houseplants, and this is a very good amount of plants for me. I think everybody needs to take a step back and kind of look and see how much time they actually have to dedicate to their plants. Think about each plant and what it takes to care for each individual plant, and time yourself when you're taking care of your houseplants. See how much time it takes to thoroughly check your leaves and your growth, and if your plants are in leca or pon or soil, if you're checking the roots, if you're having to do flushes, if you're just simply watering your plants that may be in soil. It all takes a different amount of time, and I feel like it's important to know how much time that actually takes. This way you know how much time you have to manage for your houseplant collection, because it is a chore. It's a big chore. I'll typically put a movie on. It usually takes me about 2 to 3 hours to finish caring for my plants, and that's me checking my leaves. Not a lot of the times am I cleaning my leaves every single time. That's another chore in of itself. But it depends too, because if one of your plants has a pest, then you're taking more time caring for that plant and inspecting that plant, and then maybe quarantining some plants that plant was next to. All of this takes extra time, but I would say for my plant collection size, allocate maybe 5 hours a week to taking care of my plants. That's checking them and watering them thoroughly and cleaning my shelves off and putting them back. If I had double the amount of plants, I don't think I would be able to maintain a collection that large at this point in my life. Over the past couple of years, there's been some just struggles in everyday life, and mentally I have not really been capable of taking care of my plants the way that I probably should be taking care of them. So a lot of my chores went to the wayside. I lost some plants along the way because of it, and recognizing that and just knowing what you're physically and mentally capable of doing is a huge part of curating a collection this large and taking care of a collection this large. So evaluate it and see. Everybody's different. 5 plants might be too much for you. 200 plants might be a walk in the park. Everybody's different. It all depends on your lifestyle, your work schedule, and how much time you have to take care of them. Another thing to consider is the space that you're in. Are you in an apartment with limited space, possibly limited windows, or do you have a home where you have ample amount of light, a space dedicated to your plants? Personally, I would consider my living space, even though we are in a single family home with many rooms, all of my plants are in our space, and we live in the garden apartment, the garden space of the house. We're in the basement. The plant collection you see behind me, there are no windows anywhere around here. It's all just up against the wall, all grow lights. I think that you need to just really look at what you're working with, and if you have to invest in heat mats, in grow lights, in just extra things to keep your plants warm. Some people I know have like little space heaters because it may be really cold in their space. You have to take into consideration the cost, and if it's going to be cost effective for you, and if it's going to be within your spending means. So that's something else to consider when you're curating your collection, and whether or not that's going to be sustainable in the future. Sometimes grow lights can crap out. I've had great luck with these. I've had these for about three years or so, and I've never had to replace them, but I have gotten another set along the way because my collection got bigger. So I have 2 sets of grow lights, and I've also gotten heat mats, and heat mats are not very cheap. I want to say maybe, I can link the ones that I use below. I actually got them from a company. They wanted me to try them out, so I didn't purchase them myself, but I did buy my grow lights, and I swear by them. I absolutely love them, but I also love these heat mats too, so I recommend them. So I'll link them below, not sponsored. You have to just consider all of this, consider the things that you're buying, and if it aligns with what you want your carbon footprint to be. Like I said, I've never had to replace a set of grow lights yet. If I did, that would be waste, and that would be unfortunate. Take your space and the things that you need to buy due to lack of light, lack of heat for your collection. Now, if you have this beautiful, we've lived in a house where I had a full wall of windows, and I had my plants in the window, and I didn't need grow lights outside of winter time, and I didn't even supplement with lights in the winter at that point in my houseplant collection days, but I just simply used the light from the window, and it worked for me at that time. So it's really just based on what kind of space you have as well, and you really need to take that into consideration too. I apologize if you heard loud noise in the past few minutes. It's my washing machine upstairs. I apologize. But something else kind of in relation to the last point is financial restrictions and financial obligations to your houseplants. Houseplants they grow. At the very best, you want them to get big and lush, and you want them to grow up and be beautiful. And with that, it takes money. You need to repot your plants every so often. You need to handle any pest issues that may come your way and determine what you're going to be purchasing to handle that, whether it's beneficials, which is great sustainably, or if it's pesticides, some type of chemical that you're going to use to get rid of your plants, well, maybe, to get rid of your pests. You need to plan for what medium you're going to be using, whether that's leca, pon, soil, additives to your soil. Most soils need additives. I didn't know that very early in collecting houseplants. So all of this takes money. Up potting, you need to repot your plant into a bigger pot eventually. And all of this does cost money. So that's something that you should really consider when you're looking into getting a houseplant collection this size. Now, over the past 5 years, 6 years, this is my 6th year of me collecting houseplants, I have accumulated a lot of pots. We save pots. When a plant perishes, we save that pot. So over the years, I feel like I haven't really had to purchase a new pot, probably within the past like 2 years or so, just because I always seem to have pots on hand. Soil is something that I do spend money on, and pesticides is something I spent money on in the past as well, especially since I bring a good chunk of my collection outside in the summer, which I may not be doing anymore. More on that to come. Yeah, so it just really all depends on what works for you, what you feel is sustainable, what you want your collection to look like, and what you want your carbon footprint to look like in caring for your plants. And that all costs a different amount of money. So it's just something to really look at, sit down, budget for, and just know that it's going to be an expense. In talking about pests, there are many different pests that you can come across with owning a houseplant collection this size. The most common one I would probably say is fungus gnats. I do budget for sticky traps, and I also just started using some, microbe lift. I talked about this in my past video, but I use this when I water. Gets all the little fungus gnat eggs and takes care of all the larvae in the soil. So that helps a lot. Not very cheap, but it lasts a really long time. The next one would probably be spider mites, mealybugs, scale, thrips. A lot of these pests can be taken care of with pesticides or with beneficials. I'm not one to talk on beneficials because I haven't used them, but I have wanted to try them. I just don't have a very enclosed space here. I don't have like a greenhouse cabinet or a greenhouse room or a back patio that my plants are in. These are like in our living space downstairs. So I don't think that they would be the right fit for me and my family. If you're able to get beneficials, I think that's going to be the best bet for the planet and for your health, really. We don't know what's in a lot of these pesticides, and I don't trust a lot of them, but have I used them? Yeah. I feel like it's a quick fix. You spray your plants down a few times. It typically eradicates the issue, but you just don't know. You don't know what's in these things, and yeah. Some things that I have used that are safer is like a diatomaceous earth. It's a brutal death for these insects, which I try not to think about, even though it's an insect. There's quite a few products that you can use to get rid of your pests on your houseplants. I'm not going to go into all the ones that you can use. I'm sure everybody has their favorites. You can do your research, but there are safer ones and not so safer ones, and I feel like beneficial insects is the safest out of all of them if you're able to do it in your house and you can incorporate them within your daily living. I think of ladybugs flying around my basement and my family being like, okay, it's time for you to move out. But there are some beneficials that you don't even see, and they can get to mealies, they get to fungus gnats, they get down in the soil. Like, you literally don't see them. They are microscopic, and that would probably be the best bet for me. I may try them in the future, but I'm curious to know if you use beneficials. Let me know in the comments below, and if they've helped you, and if they've kind of taken away the stigma of you're adding more bugs to your plants. It's like this thing I have to get over, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's something to consider. If you get pests, it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time out of your day. It's probably going to add more time onto your plant chores. It also could affect your mental health. So let's get into that. The emotional toll that your plants can have on you can be a great one. It can help you through a time in your life. It can feel like it's giving you purpose, like you're making something grow from a little tiny plant or maybe even a seed to this big plant. Like it can really bring you joy. And then at certain times, it can bring you down. If you get a pest and it wipes out a chunk of your collection, that's going to take a toll. That's going to take a toll on your mentals. And if you're going through a situation in your life, maybe you've experienced a loss or something happened where you feel like your houseplant collection, given the size that it is, may be too much for you to handle at this time, and it can weigh you down because you're thinking of all the plants that need watering and care, and you're having a hard enough time caring for yourself. These are all things to think about, and these are all things that I'm sure a lot of people go through owning collections this size. And I guess we all have to just ask ourselves if this is a continuing thing. If we feel like we really can't care for this many plants, it's okay to give them away. It's okay to throw them away. It's all right to do whatever you need to do to help you in that moment and get through that time. We don't want to add any stress onto our collecting. That's not fun. Okay, so that brings me to my next point. Streamline your collection to fit your lifestyle. If you enjoy having houseplants grow in water, controversial subject, all plants growing in water, who cares? Grow them in water. If you want to avoid fungus gnats, that's one way to do it. If you have a problem with fungus gnats, take all your plants out of soil and put them in water. I'm just kidding. Don't jump and do that. But my daughter has a few houseplants in her room. She does love houseplants. She realizes that she's not very great at remembering to water them. So she has a lot of pothos and they're mostly in water. And then when she sees the water draining, she has clear little vases. If she sees that there's almost no water in it, she'll just fill it up, and it's very, very low maintenance for her and easy for her to maintain houseplants in her room that way. This also works great if you're like in an office setting and you may not be there every day of the week, and it's just an easier way to sustain some plants. You can't have every plant in water. A lot of plants aren't going to do as well as others, but some species you can. So streamline your collection. If you're a pothos gal and you want to have mostly pothos because they're just the easiest plant known to man, then do that. If you're into Hoya and you have most of your Hoya in leca, and that's you got that routine down, you have the flush down, you have the nutrient solution down, and all of your Hoya are just thriving under your system, then stick with that. You don't have to have aeroids and cactus. You can just stick with one species that you absolutely love. If you want to curate your collection to include a ton of different species, you just have to know that different plant species are going to call for different care and different mediums, and you just need to do your research on that and know if that's something that you're willing to take on. A lot of creators on YouTube, including myself, just love every species of plant. I think that that's one of our vices, I guess. Not necessarily, but I think when we first started, we just didn't know not every plant had the same care routine. Not every plant needs the same amount of water. I was a big cactus girl, and I still consider myself to be. I have 2 shelves full of cactus, and I have gotten used to caring for them, but I also have quite a few aeroids. I also have quite a few Hoya. And it's different care for every plant, and you have to just, know that that's going to take more of your time, possibly more days out of the week, because not every plant's going to be on the same watering schedule or care schedule for that matter. So when you are streamlining your collection, know what plants you love, know what plants you're doing well with, plants that are going to be either low maintenance or high maintenance based on your lifestyle and what you're willing to put in. And that's the best way to curate your collection, is just pick out the plants that you know the best and streamline it that way. I repeated myself a bunch of times there. Okay, I turned the light off on my face because I was actually using my phone's flashlight to light my face because Jay's not here and he's got the nano lights that I typically use and I don't want to go in his office and like dig through his shit. So the light changed on my face. I hope that's not annoying. But I wanted to do a little Q&A because you guys sent in some questions or some comments about your houseplant collections and I wanted to go over that with you and I need my phone for that. So, all right, let's see. Oh, look at Kelsey Ballerini and Chase Stokes. They're so cute. Okay, so this was the story and this is what I said. I'm going to be filming a video talking about how it's becoming somewhat impractical to sustain a gigantic plant collection such as the one behind me. Oh, I bought this for Jay for his birthday. It's a deep tissue massager. He likes it. Anyway, and I wanted you guys to kind of partake in this video. So here's a question box. Send me a question, send me a concern, send me maybe something of what you're dealing with maintaining a huge... Okay, we got some questions, some comments. Someone said, I never really feel like watering and I forget about repotting, etc. One of the best ways to remember when to water, and over the past 5 to 6 years, apps have been created for this, I feel. People are just really stepping it up. You know, they're really there for us plant people and they're trying to help us get through this time. But keep a schedule, keep a watering schedule. Even though that might look different week to week, what you can do is you can write down what time you watered your Hoya or your aeroids or your cacti. You can write down when you watered them and then at least you know when to check them next. And a really good tool that I use is I use iCal. If you have an iPhone, then you have iCal. If not, there's tons of other calendar apps I'm sure that you can find. But they have reminders on iCal and some of these calendar apps where you can set reminders for yourself so that you can remember, like, okay, I don't work on Wednesdays, or Wednesdays when I get home from work, I know to check my plants, and it'll set a reminder to remind you to do that. And that's a really good way to kind of stay on top of things, I feel. Okay, here's another one. How do we sell or give away plants when we don't have a ton of followers? This is a really good question. I feel like most small plant shops, if you live near plant shops, if you live near possibly a conservatory, a lot of them will take donations if you're looking to just give plants away. Facebook Marketplace is a really good tool that I don't use enough. I just was talking to Jay about this the other day because we're looking for a treadmill and I was like, I should really go on Facebook Marketplace to look. But it has become a lot safer over the years to use it. I grew up in the Craigslist days, okay? Not safe, really weird app now. But Facebook Marketplace, you can post on there and you can say, I'm gonna have a box full of house plants, meet up, you know, in like a grocery store parking lot, a neutral place, maybe not a grocery store parking lot. Let's say a coffee shop, okay? So you meet up where there's going to be other people, so it's nice and safe. I would just recommend not having anybody come to your house, even though I've done that in the past before too. But that's a really good way to get rid of your plants if you don't have a big following on social media. Even with a bigger following on social media, I'll be completely honest, I don't have a ton of people following me in the Chicagoland area, like where I live. So that would be something that I would probably have to do as well. And if you're not looking to ship plants, you could just put that on there and you can just say local pickup. You don't have to ship plants. Shipping plants involves a lot more work than maybe you're willing to put in, and that's totally fine. But yeah, utilize Facebook Marketplace, and yeah, that's about it. Someone else said that I switched from tropicals to mainly cacti, and they go dormant in the winter and it's less work. And that's a great tip because that goes back to me talking about curating and streamlining your collection to fit your lifestyle. This specific person switched from tropicals because they were probably too much work and they involved a lot more care. They were a little bit pickier, to mainly cactus. And now there's less work. And in the winter, you're watering your cactus like once a month, if that. I usually put my cactus on grow mat or heat mats, and I did not this year. I didn't last year either. And I have them under grow lights, and they grow about the same as they do in the summer months, unless I bring them outside. If I bring my cactus outside, they grow way faster. So on that topic, that's one of the main reasons why I don't think I'm gonna bring my cactus outside, because they're starting to get really big. Like I have this one here. Down there. Like, ooh, my space isn't large enough to have gigantic cactus, even though it would be so cool to have them. I don't think that I can have giant cactus in my house. Like I'm waiting till I move and I'm more stable, like in our own place, so that I know I'm not going to be moving in like 2 or 3 years. And then they're movable at that point. Okay, someone also said depression equals plant care is hard, and depression also equals new plants bring happiness, even temporary happiness. And this may be true. And this, I feel, is one of those things where people can kind of get themselves into a little bit of a pickle. If you're experiencing a depressive bout in your life and plants make you happy, and maybe purchasing new plants make you happy, that can quickly become an issue if you are purchasing too many plants and bringing them home. It's the same thing with excessive shopping, excessive grocery shopping, lots of things. Shopping, spending money for some people helps them with depression, but it's kind of creating another issue, another underlining issue. So while that's true, keep in mind when you're having these thoughts, or when you're going to purchase another plant and you know you can barely take care of the ones that you have, keep that in mind when you're going to purchase another plant. A really good thing that I try to follow is a one in, one out, especially since I am really content with my plant collection right now. I feel like any less plants than this would be okay. I don't think I'll ever go under 50, but having the 75, around 75 that I have right now, is sustainable for me. So if I purchase a plant, I'm going to give a plant away, or I'm going to pitch a plant that was on the edge, on the brink, and just yeet it. So those are some of the things that I try to follow in my own plant collection, to just to stay content with my collection and to not make it get too overwhelming. I hope that that wasn't too like harsh for people that are experiencing depression. I get it. I went through a couple bouts over the past few years, and I completely understand how shopping and buying a new plant can really rejuvenate your interest in houseplants if you're feeling down and if you're feeling like it's too overwhelming and it's like this new plant brings you joy. But I found that just going to a plant shop and looking at new plants, and like maybe going to the conservatory and seeing new plants, taking photos, posting about some plants that I've seen, that almost helps me in that moment more so than purchasing the plant and bringing it back to a collection I'm already struggling with. I hope that helps a little bit. Okay, so someone else said that slimming down their collection has helped out a lot with the stress of maintaining a large plant collection, slimming down, as well as things that make it easier. For example, self-watering planters. Self-watering planters, one way to conserve water is to get you a self-watering planter. Or one of the things I wanted to talk about, which I do not use, which I have to use. Do as I say, not as I do, okay? Is the Plantipotty, which I don't think that there's any more in stock right now. But the Plantipotty is a system that you put over like a 5-gallon bucket, and it creates, like, you just put your plants on there, you water it, and the water falls into the bucket. It's like kind of like this dish drainer system thing. You can easily create one yourself. Not to take away from Plantipotty, but I really don't think that there's any that they're selling right now. I'll double check. If they are selling them, I will link it below. I think that my dear friend Becca might have a link, but I'm not sure. You can just get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, put like a cookie cooling rack over it, bada bing, bada boom, water goes in the bucket. You can reuse that water as long as you don't have any pests. over your next plants, and that way you can conserve water. Flushing our plants out is probably one of the best ways to water a plant. You really want to give it a good flushing. You want to give it a really good water, but it's a waste. It's a really big waste. And that's why I understand a lot of people bottom water, because it's very less wasteful and the plant absorbs what it wants. Some people don't like bottom watering because they just don't like having a bunch of plants sitting around with water saucers, you know, and I get that too. So I do a little bit of both. There's some plants that I have like extra thick saucers that I'll just bottom water, and then excuse me, I will also flush my plants out, but I'm not conserving water right now, and that's bad, and I know. And yes, I live in Illinois where we don't really have to worry about water, but we all have to worry about water because it's 2024. Someone also said that something they did last weekend was combine plants into pots to lessen the number of pots to care for. So if you have like 2 or 3 pothos, if you can combine all of those pothos into one planter, you just downsized from 3 plants to 1 plant. And if you have multiple plants in your collection that this can be done with, then that's a great solution. But the same person also said, I also yeeted like 6 plants that I could no longer be bothered with caring for. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And that's just it. Yeet them. And if you're going to come for me in the comments about throwing away plants, and this is a sustainable houseplant video, you're right. I get it. But plants are biodegradable, and so is most of the medium we use for them. So don't feel so bad yeeting. Also, if you are having a really hard time caring for your houseplants inside and you live in a climate or a zone that calls for more tropical plants like our Floridians or our Californians, try planting it outside. Listen, Earth does its job, okay? Mother Earth, she is a queen, and she will care for that plant. And if she doesn't, then it's not your fault if it dies. It's her fault. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. That was a lot of talking. I'm out of water.